Hello and welcome to Haunted Montreal's Spooky Story Sessions. I'm your host, Holly Rhiannon. We are back from vacation, and today I am going to tell you all about the ghost of the wartime bomber pilot. With over 350 documented ghost stories, Montreal is the most haunted city in Canada, if not all of North America. Haunted Montreal is dedicated to researching these paranormal tales, and our channel brings you videos in both French and English every second Saturday. Today, we examine the strange ghost of a wartime pilot that appeared out of thin air in a downtown Chapters bookstore in 2007. A woman named Kim J had stopped in for an iced cappuccino to beat the summer heat when the apparition gave her the fright of her life while browsing the shelves. But before we get into today's story, please remember to like, subscribe, and hit the bell button so you get notified every time we have a new tale to share. And hey, if you are already subscribed, a big thank you. Welcome back. We're happy to see you again. Now, without further ado, let's get spooky. In 2020, Haunted Montreal was contacted by a woman named Kim J, who wanted to share a first-person ghost story that she experienced over a decade ago. The story was so frightening that the memory is still crystal clear in her mind to this very day. According to Kim, it was a hot summer day in mid-July 2007. Everything was typical about that day in the heart of downtown Montreal's commercial district. Crowds of business people and shoppers alike were out in full force on one of the city's busiest streets, St. Catherine, as they usually are at that time of year, taking full advantage of the warmer weather. It was that way every year. There was nothing unusual about it. The sidewalk was overflowing with its daily sea of people darting to and fro, each on their mission, whether it be for business or pleasure. The street was full of life, alive, vibrant, and ready to be rediscovered as I had done every summer before. I was finally on vacation and wanted to take full advantage of the beautiful weather, so I set out onto the main drag to get some sun, take in the sights and sounds of the city, and find some great summer sales along the way. Little did I know I would get way more than I had originally bargained for on that unforgettable summer day. She continued. After a few hours of strolling down St. Catherine Street and popping in and out of every store in sight, I needed to beat the heat, so I ducked into an older-style building which stood between the corners of Peel and Stanley. At the time, it was a large multi-level Chapters bookstore with a main entrance located at the corner of Stanley at 1171 St. Catherine. This particular building had its own unique and timeless aura. Its older architecture stood out among the more modern-looking building facades in the area. A large new burgundy and yellow Chapters sign was on full display above the main entrance and was hard not to miss. This would be the perfect spot for a break from the hot weather. I could cool off, sit down with a good book, and quench my thirst at the cafe on the second level. So I headed upstairs. Once there, I ordered an iced cappuccino and headed over to the bookshelves located beside the cafe by the large windows located at the front of the store in search of a good read. While browsing the selection of titles, I saw something darker move out of the top corner of my eyes. I brushed it off at first, thinking it was just another customer, and didn't bother looking up, but as the mass came closer, it became clear that this was far from a regular store patron. I looked up towards the aisle in front of me, and there stood a relatively young man in his late 20s to early 40s who gave me this unwavering, dazed, and intense stare. The man's style of dress was very unnerving, as it was out of place for a contemporary summer day in downtown Montreal. He wore an older-style tan to medium brown bomber pilot flight suit, similar to uniforms worn during World War II, complete with an aviator hat with ear flaps, goggles, and tall, dark aviator boots. At first I thought it was a reenactment actor, but he was far too pale, and the way he stared at me was really weird, expressionless, like he was in a trance. When he walked, he had no gait, too, which was really odd. He appeared to hover a few inches from the floor. I will never forget it. His pale gray skin had a corpse-like pallor and sent shivers down my spine. The anachronism was bone-chilling. I could not believe what I was seeing, but it was true. I knew at that point that I was looking at a ghost, a solid, full-bodied apparition. He seemed completely lost, his gaze hollow and confused, as if he was unfamiliar with his current surroundings and didn't know where he was or what had happened to him. Perhaps what was creepiest of all was the trance-like state that he was in, and the fact that he had absolutely no gait or manner of walking when he moved. My heart was pounding so hard, it felt as though it was beating right out of my chest. I was in total and utter shock, paralyzed with fear, and couldn't scream. I remained frozen in place until he broke eye contact with me a few seconds later and started moving down the aisle until he disappeared behind a busy crowd standing by a set of washrooms. Kim J. continued. I managed to regain my composure and rushed over to the area to see if I could catch another glimpse. I waited there for 20 minutes, but never did see him again. He was gone, completely vanished into thin air. I knew from that moment on that ghosts were not a figment of the imagination, and that they had the ability to show up on a moment's notice at the most unexpected times. I will never forget that day for as long as I live, and I often wonder why I saw the ghost of that bomber pilot. Could it be one of the many non-fiction books about World War II in that chapter's store that somehow triggered this apparition into showing itself? Or could it be that his spirit was attracted to the energy of the location? As some paranormal research suggests, spirits tend to hang out around busy public places such as hospitals, schools, movie theaters, libraries, and stores because they enjoy the liveliness of places where there are a lot of people around. Or could it be that this entity was somehow tied to the particular building or location as a result of a significant event such as a trauma or sudden death? These are questions I will never truly know the answers to, and I can only speculate. However, there is one thing I know for sure after having gone through this frightening and life-changing experience. Ghosts are 100% real, and there is a spirit of a wartime bomber pilot that lurks in the commercial district of downtown Montreal. She concluded, "Don't believe me? Wait and see. You just might spot him one day in the area, as I have when you least expect it." Kim J's experience prompts the burning question as to why the ghost of a wartime bomber pilot would appear inside a downtown Montreal bookstore. The chapter's bookstore was located in the Castle Building at 1410 Stanley Street on the corner of St. Catherine Street West. The building is now home to a Victoria's Secret lingerie boutique after the chapter's bookstore closed in 2014. Named for the Castle Tea Company and erected on the site of the former Emmanuel Congregational Church, it was completed in 1927. With 11 floors, the brick building has a neoclassical facade. Perhaps the best theory about the ghost of a wartime bomber is related to Montreal's worst air disaster. During World War II, Canada was fighting against Nazi Germany, which involved coordinating with Great Britain and sending troops, supplies, weapons, ammunition, ships, and planes across the Atlantic Ocean to support the war effort. On Tuesday, April 25, 1944, a Liberator bomber took off from Dorval Airport at 10:24 a.m., headed for the UK via Newfoundland. It had 9,000 liters of fuel and an unknown cargo aboard. The pilot was a Polish flying ace with lots of experience. However, a few minutes after takeoff, the plane appeared to experience mechanical problems over the downtown core and made a sharp right turn, presumably to try and land in the river. Unfortunately, the plane descended too quickly, and at 10:30 a.m., just 6 minutes after takeoff, it slammed into a row of triplexes on Ottawa and Shannon Streets in the working-class neighborhood of Griffintown. 3 houses were immediately destroyed in the explosion, and 11 were badly damaged. Flames shot up 50 feet in the air, and charred body parts and wreckage were scattered all over the place. How far they flung about is a matter of speculation, but it is possible that some may have reached the castle building and landed on its roof, which is very large and flat. Firefighters managed to put out the inferno by noon. At that point, the death toll was 10 people in the neighborhood, along with 5 airmen flying the Liberator. When Kim J was presented with a photograph of 3 of the 5 Liberator airmen who perished, she identified the man in the middle of the photo as the most likely suspect. He is believed to be Officer Pilot Andrzej Kuzniacki, aged 31 at the time of his death. He had been flying in the Polish Air Force since 1936. She said, While I can't say with absolute certainty if the full-bodied apparition I witnessed in chapters was indeed the man in the picture, I can say with full confidence that the man pictured in the middle is very close in appearance to the pilot that I saw. They both share a strikingly similar type of uniform, the same eyes, same shaped face, and level of intensity in their gaze. However, the ghost I saw seemed more dazed and had a look consistent with confusion or trauma. Today, in the Victoria's Secret Lingerie boutique, according to witnesses, the paranormal activity continues. The most common occurrence is the disembodied sound of heavy footsteps, usually when things are quiet in the store. One former saleswoman said, "I'm pretty sure the footsteps are from a man because they are heavy, almost clomping. Given we don't get too many male shoppers, and given that we often are used to hearing the footsteps near opening or after closing, there is definitely something mysterious going on." When pressed if she had ever seen the ghost of the bomber pilot, she said no, but did recall a woman who once shrieked inside a changing room. After her scream, she bolted out half undressed. The woman seemed frightened and flustered and did not want to talk about why she was so upset. She left the shop as quickly as possible after rearranging her clothing. Did she encounter the ghost of the wartime bomber pilot as Kim J did? While nobody knows if the ghost is indeed one of the airmen from the devastating plane crash into the heart of Griffintown in 1944, there are few other explanations apart from Kim J's theory that the apparition may have been triggered by one of the non-fiction books about World War II. However, while not unheard of, haunted books of this nature are extremely rare and unlikely to appear in a new corporate bookstore. Whatever the case, the enduring legend of Montreal's wartime bomber ghost gives reason to reflect on that devastating period of human history and to be wary when visiting the castle building in the heart of downtown Montreal. Are you a Montreal resident or perhaps a tourist who has encountered Kim's wartime pilot? If so, we'd love to know. As always, we want to hear your theories about what could be going on. Thank you so much for stopping by. If this is your first video, we do hope you'll stick around for the next one. We post videos in both French and English every second Saturday. If you'd like to learn more about the organization founded by the talented Donovan King, it's all listed in the description down below, along with links to purchase tickets to in-person haunted storytelling experiences. We're really ramping up this time of year, so take a look. Remember to like, subscribe, and comment. We'll have a new video out for you in a couple weeks, but until then, stay spooky.